Linda, welcome. Great to have you in this podcast. As always, thank you to all our listeners for checking in and either watching this on YouTube or listening to this on SoundCloud. Guys, welcome. Thanks so much for your support. We're talking about where the smart money is. Now, that's an interesting subject because, as Linda always says, there are certain times of the year where it actually makes a heck of a lot of sense to start to plan, to do things the intelligent way. We all know how busy we are. Pharmacists are busy people. Owners of all types of small businesses are busy people. And whether you own one pharmacy or whether you own 6 or 60, you're busy. And even as a joke, I often say that I have friends of mine who are unemployed, who when you talk to them are very busy. So how do you manage your time the best way? How do you get the most out of your pharmacy? And so what we mean by that is it's people, it's processes, systems, all those other bits and pieces. So today, what Linda is going to be talking about is making sure that you keep working hard, because we know that that's the reality of life, but getting somewhere. So making sure that you work smart and making the right decisions. So, having said that, Linda, why don't we jump straight on in, because I'm sure people are here to listen to you. So what are you noticing out in pharmacy land at the moment?
Yes, Alex, a lot of unrest, actually, a lot of uncertainty about what the future holds. In Australia, we're at the point of negotiating the next CPA, I've forgotten what it stands for. Deb's gonna have to edit this. What's it called? What's pharmacy?
The
something
CPA.
Pharmacy agreement.
Yeah.
Community pharmacy agreement.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say the CPA, the pharmacy agreement.
Don't forget to mention that there are changes in the US as well.
I'm about to
currently happening,
talk about that. Yeah.
To say to them, you guys, we can almost hardly keep up whether you're listing in the UK or Canada or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So Alex, what I'm noticing in particular is there's a bit of unrest, a little bit of uncertainty about what the future holds. Whether you're in Australia, where they're looking at negotiating a new pharmacy agreement with the government, whether you're in the US, where there's constant changes happening and an election year, which always cause a bit of uncertainty and has an impact on business. Our clients in the UK, people in New Zealand, all of these people are feeling a little bit on edge at the moment at the change. We're in a bit of a state of flux wherever you are, really. And there is increasingly competition, as we know. People are really thinking about what do they want or what do they expect from this year. And with discounters forcing prices down, affecting profitability, all those sorts of things, people are really thinking, okay, where can I invest my time and money? In other words, where is the smart money right now? Or what will we put the smart money on? That's really where we're at the moment.
Not easy out there right now. So, it really depends on where you are, but we all know that there are massive changes in compliance and regulatory issues all over the world. I was just chatting to a couple of pharmacists in the US this week who were telling me about the changes taking place there. So we know about that. And you're so right. With the big discount chemists coming into place, competition is just so much harder than it used to be. So it's not so easy out there right now. And how are pharmacists handling that?
It's interesting because pharmacists are scientific people. They like formulae and they like structure. And in situations like this, what do? The natural reaction is to go back to being within particular boundaries and maybe tightening the purse strings as one example of that. There is a temptation to be more, I think one of my clients described it as being, I've got to get on the tools, which is a pretty dangerous thing to do, because if you're stuck working in your business, then you're not going to be working on your business. But people, one of the first things they do is they look at their wages bill. And they say, who can I, pardon the pun, dispense with for the moment anyway, while things are a little bit tricky, and whether you just end up understaffed, or, you know, as the owner, you actually step in and start working in the dispensary yourself. There's some issues with that, of course, because that is exhibiting a particular, and here I guess I'm talking as a psychologist, exhibiting a particular mindset. And it's a mindset of contracting rather than growing. And that affects your staff, it affects your customers, it affects morale. And it also doesn't give you the opportunity to capitalise on, you know, what might be out there that could help you grow. If you're so busy contracting, then how can you possibly grow? So, you know, all of that is going to have both the mindset and the actions that you take will have an impact one way or the other on staff morale and ultimately sales.
Amazing. You know, it's interesting. You were talking about contracting of the mindset in terms of the way you look at things as an entrepreneur, and that how that actually directly contracts other components of the business. And we see it all the time, don't we? You just see people whose pharmacies just don't feel like happy places anymore, productive places anymore, and people are just working in the business all the time and saying, I know that I shouldn't be, but they just seem to sort of go through these growth patterns and then they retract, growth patterns and then retract. And over the years, it's a lot of the same of, and that's just nuts. You know, it's so soul destroying when that happens. So, you know, what you're saying is pretty intense. And sorry, everybody, if we're talking about something today that might be ringing very true, or there are times perhaps in your career and your life cycle of your pharmacy as a business, this has been things that you've experienced, and hopefully not too many listeners out there today are in that particular difficulty. But if you are, then please keep listening, because Linda's going to be giving us some great tips about what we can do moving forward. But Linda, it's intense, and it sounds like panic stations for some people, doesn't it?
Look, the reactive instinct is strong within all of us. It's part of the human condition. You know, we talk about the fight or flight response, or it's actually fight, flight, or freeze. And we see plenty of all of those sort of responses out there in, you know, pharmacy land, as we like to call it. I guess what separates the winners are the people who actually recognise that knee-jerk reaction and deliberately choose to stretch beyond it, particularly in rocky times.
So awareness is like step number one. The fact that you're aware that this is happening, even if you can't save yourself at that particular moment, that's a great way to start, right?
Absolutely. So that's the first aspect. If you can be aware of it, then you can do something about it. And when you do, you know, you can be like Rocky, if we can continue the analogy, and actually take that opportunity to come out swinging and win.
I love it. Okay, so if they're going to be like Rocky and come out swinging, what do they need to do?
Well, this ultimately, I guess, is where the smart money is. And it's, first of all, understanding your own reactions. And as we said, you know, stretching beyond those. So beyond your comfort zone, looking at different ways of doing things. It's really interesting, actually, because I'm reading a book on leadership at the moment, and they talk a lot about a particular army where the culture in this army, and this applies to business, and in fact why people who come from this particular nation and this particular army are highly entrepreneurial and very successful, is because they have the mindset that you can't do anything wrong if you learn from it. So there's no failure, there's only feedback. And that's my term, rather than coming from a book as such. But what it means is that you need to look critically at your business, and you need to invite people's views and opinions and brainstorm and look at different ways of doing things. And it's unusual to the point of unique, this happening in an army where, you know, the enlisted men or women are contributing ideas and disagreeing with their senior officers, and as a result, a better outcome is what happens. So there's a constant crucible, I guess, of action and reactions are examined, and then looking at different ways of doing things. And, as the person who's got to be at the front line putting up your dukes, you're the one that can actually invite that and create that within your work environment to get other people's ideas. And, whether it's a casual conversation with a customer, whether it's brainstorming with one or two of your staff members, it doesn't cost you anything, but it's so valuable and will reap enormous rewards. So it's certainly one of the things that you would need to do if you're coming out swinging. And really, from that, understanding what your customer wants. You can have a beautiful looking pharmacy, you can be fully stocked up, but if you don't know what your customer actually wants, then the stock is going to sit on the shelves. Having said that, the stock that you do have on your shelves, you want to make sure that they are providing a good gross profit for you. So look at your retail products and look at the gross profit on different brands of things, and make sure that you're carrying good quality products with good margin on them. So that's an important aspect as well. The smart money isn't just on savvy purchasing, but also ensuring that your return on investment is solid. So the two things go hand in hand. Make sure that you're buying products that will sell. Understand what your customer wants. There's no point having great GP on the products if they're just sitting there gathering dust. So you need your stock turn to be, a good stock turn. The other thing is invest in your education. So you're going to get better return on investment when you've educated yourself and the people around you as well on business, retail, marketing strategies, and then making sure that, once you've had that education, one of the things that pharmacists do really well is educate themselves. They're very conscientious in the clinical education, in learning, filling in gaps and things like that. But I guess it's hard to know sometimes. You don't know what you don't know. And business is one of those areas that is constantly changing. So to invest in education in business, and particularly in marketing, which is the thing which is going to bring in your customers and keep them involved and interested in what you have to offer, is really critical. So, Alex, when pharmacists are educating themselves, when any of us are educating ourselves, actually, it's great if we actually do the education, but what's the missing link for a lot of people?
Absolutely. Look, I think what you're about to say is the fact that so many of us know. That's the smart ones, right? Because before you talked about what we don't know usually is what hurts us, right? That what we don't know. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even going to include that parcel of people who are sort of ignorantly, blissfully living in ignorance at the moment about what's happening in the world around them and in business. The ones that we often call the lobster in the hot boiling water or on the rocks and that type of thing.
That old frog analogy.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about here are the hardworking. I'm trying my best to educate myself on scientific and clinical outcomes all the time, to stay on top of those particular things, go to conferences, learn from colleagues and that type of thing. I'm trying to do the same thing for my team and staff, but at the same time, I'm also realizing today that I'm needing to be more and more entrepreneurial and thinking like a successful business owner. Mm-hmm. And you gave us so much great advice, and I absolutely love it. I love so many concepts of it, but no failure, just feedback. Everybody just write that down. If you're driving at the moment, don't do it, but just try to remember that incantation, because so many times, Linda and I see people who are bright, who have every bit of intelligence in the world, not succeed as much as they should, as much as they deserve, because they're just too afraid to take that first step. And
it really is about action, Alex. I think pharmacists are becoming a lot more wise about where they educate themselves and on what. And the message is absolutely getting through that, educating yourself on business, on retail, on marketing, are all really important things to add to your kit bag.
And you don't have to be an expert in those subjects on every single one of them. You can just become more knowledgeable on them and then either hire the right people around you or outsource it to the right people around you to help make your business, your pharmacy more successful, right?
Right. I guess the missing link which I've noticed out there, which is slowly improving, but it's about implementation. And really, education is fantastic. Unless one implements that education, then it's not you're not getting a return. You're literally not getting a return on investment.
Well, I want to lose weight and I want to get fitter and stronger. But if I don't get up in the morning and go for a run and then get myself to the gym from time to time, it just ain't going to happen. Even though I may know everything there is to know about weight loss and gaining strength and nutrition and health and those types of things, it's not going to work. That's a standard analogy. And you're absolutely right. You go back to that old Nike ad, just do it. And just do the work and it'll happen. However, what we've seen, and I think it's important to mention, because going back to what we're talking about, the bright ones out there who do work hard, but who don't get the business and the pharmacy that they deserve, it's not a question about sitting back and saying, I need to do all these different things. Where do I start? What we've seen and what you and I have talked about in a lot of detail in the past about success in pharmacy is knowing not only what to do, but what to do next and putting it in the right sequence and the right order, and then executing the plan or implementing the plan in order to do that, right? So that was just gold. I mean, stock just sitting there, if it's not moving, it's costing you money. If the stock isn't what people want and need, and you haven't done that research in your area, great place to start. But making sure that if we are giving people what they want, make sure that it's profitable. And what I loved, and this is where I was getting to, is, you're not sitting here telling the pharmacists and the pharmacy owners out there to, hey guys, go and find suppliers who will give you great discounts and discount everything and discount your profitability so that you slowly continue to die out there in pharmacy. What you're saying is think about your business differently. Think of it by adding value to your community and don't drop your prices. In actual fact, increase your prices, but then demonstrate to people that when they come to you, they're going to get value and therefore you'll be able to stay in business. You'll be able to be a shining light in terms of your community and leading the way for community pharmacy. But what about systems and processes that give you back your time? Because I know that as we were talking about that, you can almost hear a lot of hardworking pharmacists out there saying, where's the time? I'm educating myself on this. I'm buying that. I'm leading my team. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. At the same time, spend time with my kids, my husband, my wife. How do you get back your time so that you and your staff can invest in building your understanding of a relationship with your customers so that they do buy more product more often and see your pharmacy as an integral part of their community?
Great question. And look, it starts with, as we were talking about, the education piece. That's the first piece. Then it's really important that you implement. How do you implement? And this is where you need to have a system and process to implement what you're learning, which is going to help you. One of the things that will help you with is your time. So if I can offer a little tip, whatever education you do, whether it's working with a mentor, whether it's going to a conference and listening to a speaker or reading a book, have an action list with you, where you write down as things occur, as ideas occur to you or action points, put them on your list, work them into your plan. Remember, you don't have to do everything yourself. There are people that you might be able to delegate to or outsource to who can help you with certain things. But, actually going through and identifying what are these proven ideas, getting your education from an expert, you can make 10 times the investment of time or money in additional revenue. So one of the things, that we see has helped many pharmacies is automating some of those systems and processes. And we're not talking about education here. Now we're talking about more of the operational side. But, automation can be fantastic. I had a client who installed a dispensary robot and managed to combine the scripts from 2 stores into one, which in turn saved a lot of time, reduced wages expenses, saved on rent, increased the profitability of that store, and also the productivity of the staff, because they were working on things that required a human. Whereas in certain cases, having a dispensary robot can replace some of those tasks. But it meant that they could, staff could, and particularly pharmacists, had more time to connect with their customers, to understand what they needed, to build relationships and trust. You know, that know you, like you, trust you factor is naturally higher with a pharmacist. They're one of the most trusted professions in the world. Imagine taking it to another level if your systems and processes, whether it's automated or whether you've delegated, whether you've knocked out things that just are not productive use of people's time, all allow you to spend more time connecting with your customer. And that's where the action is. That's, I guess, where the smart money is. So, you know, in the end, it's really important that you think carefully and critically about what you're going to do. If you're going to make an investment in technology, for example, look at how, you know, when you amortize it over a few years, calculate how much revenue that you can create in that time and beyond, and you'll see that your return on investment can be fantastic. You'll have happier customers, a better bottom line, a more secure business. The same thing with, you know, if you're outsourcing something, or you're looking at bringing on another staff member to handle a particular aspect of your pharmacy business. You know, all of these things, you know, think about your return on investment.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love everything that you're saying. When you look at the cost benefit analysis of, like, for example, a robot, and how much time it frees up, because we know there's a lot of pharmacists who talk to us about how much time they spend on the floor dispensing, and it's tough. And we know that if they're actually talking to people on a regular basis and engaging it, that's the number one reason why people go back to that pharmacy, because they are that trusted advisor.
100%.
So you're talking about retaining your customers and making, I mean, you spend what you should be spending a fortune on advertising to bring people in if you're not getting the right numbers. But what a waste if those people come in and they don't get the right experience, the right advice. So, you know, making sure that product moves and it's the right product by asking people the right questions isn't just going to move more product, equates to more revenue and more profit, but people actually walk out of the pharmacy feeling much better, feeling that they've been cared for, which means that they're going to keep coming back. And, you know, you just gave so many great examples of that, which I think is absolutely brilliant, because it's all about investing in the right things, investing in the right business. So, you know, if you wanted to wrap it up for us, where is the smart money in terms of your thinking this year? If there was one thing that listeners could be doing right here, right now, and there's plenty to take away from today's discussion, but what's that one thing that you believe they need to go and do and act on?
I think the most important thing, the smart money, is on investing strategically in yourself and your business. Now, whether that means watching your expenses, that's one aspect, but make sure that you allocate funds for growth. And also look for products, services and systems that are going to provide a great return on investment for you, for your business, that is going to give you a greater peace of mind, a better lifestyle. So absolutely invest strategically. 2 words. That's what it boils down to. It's like, you know, investing in property when prices are down. Now is the time to position yourself for growth. There's a lot of people out there complaining about the tough times, but you can actually put yourself so far ahead of the competition that your future is going to be more secure because you'll be ahead of the game. And that's going to make the present a lot more exciting as well. So, you know, now really is the time to grow, not contract. And I know that there are, just as there are people who are contracting, there's a lot of very wise pharmacists out there who are doing exactly that, who are really investing strategically in themselves.
Often you ask me to have a chat and talk about business with a lot of pharmacists, and I'm honored in relation to doing that. And there's two experiences recently that come to mind that really stuck when you were saying what you were just saying. And the first one was having a call with a pharmacist who'd been around a long time and had successful pharmacies throughout their course of their lives. And he's left with one now, which he doesn't work a lot in because he's trying to retire, and he can't because it's not a successful pharmacy and it doesn't allow him that option. And when he came to us, as you said, reach out sometimes to mentors. When he came to us, he had almost run out of cash flow to be able to get the help that he wanted. And quite often we see this in our industry, is that I'm going to try to do this myself. I'm going to try to figure this out for myself. And if you don't take Linda's advice and think strategically and invest in your strategic thinking for the business moving forward, then you might miss out on a huge opportunity, which could come back to bite you. Because I've heard that so many times before, and it's painful when you see someone who really wants help and you can't help them. It's one of the most frustrating things you'll ever come across in your life. And then the other story is of an experience that happened about 6 weeks ago. And this is a guy, they're successful. They've got a few successful pharmacies. There's 4 partners, but a couple of them are really struggling for the time being. And we had a discussion about the options in terms of what they could do. And at the end of it, when I asked him if he wanted any assistance and any help, he said, no, that's okay. I'll figure it out myself. And all I kept thinking about was, if you could have, you would have. Mm-hmm. Why not bother doing it now? Because we've got step-by-step processes that are proven, that have been worked on over the years, that are going to get you to where you want to get to successfully. And so I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, trying to make this sound like some kind of a pitch, because I'm not. I'm a massive advocate, like you, Linda, in saying, if you need help, go and pay someone who is successful in that and get the information and advice that you need. If you've got a friend who can help you with that, great. If you can go to books who can give you that advice, great. What I am saying here is, don't wait until it's too late. Mm-hmm. And if you've got problems and you haven't been able to figure it out yet, then guess what? You won't be able to. As smart as you are, you don't know everything. And, in business, one of the biggest things that I've learned is exactly that. I think I'm an intelligent guy, but I certainly haven't been able to always figure it out. So when you're looking at taking the advice that Linda has given today and looking at making sure that you invest strategically on your business, and if you don't know what that next step is, then go and talk to someone about that next step. Go and do your research. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, this entire year where you might be feeling optimistic right now, and the analogy that I'm thinking about is, everybody at the beginning of football season, whether you like Australian rules football or gridiron or soccer, which is the real football, the game played by, and monitored by FIFA and that kind of stuff, whatever your passion, whatever your team, the one thing that's always true is that at the beginning of the season, when the trade talks are happening and people have shifted from one club to another, there may be a new manager in place. Everyone's always optimistic about the season. But very quickly, you start to find out which teams have done their planning and mm-hmm. execution in the right way, and who was kind of just living with optimism and just hoping that this year was going to be, different. But when you study the best teams in the world, you realize that they've got systems, that they follow those systems on a regular basis. And it doesn't matter who the manager is so much. And it doesn't matter whether they traded 2 or 3 players and those players were huge and they were legends or whatever the case is. They may take a few steps back, but it's only a couple of seasons or so before they're back to being at their top. And sometimes these clubs don't even skip a beat. As a new manager, there's a few new players and the system carries on and they are successful. And I know that there's a lot of you out there who are avid followers of sport who will know exactly what I'm talking about. And the other thing, in just in completing what we're talking about, Linda, which I absolutely loved, in terms of, you were saying doing the right things and implementing those right things into the pharmacy and finding the time to automate and to systemize, and realizing that there isn't any failure, just feedback. And I think that our readers and listeners today would love, hearing that. And it's that if you go out there every day and play golf, and you know that you haven't been able to improve your game for a while because of the way that you swing and the way that you think and about the game, the way that you approach the game. If you don't get someone to sit back and say, hey man, this is where that actual swing can be improved, this is what you're actually doing wrong, this is how to get it right. If you don't do that kind of stuff, your game will never improve. And so the message today is such a powerful one, in the sense that take a step back, think about it, invest in yourself, not just in the same education, because I know that a lot of the ladies and gents out there really do spend a lot of time investing in their education, but in the right areas. So, right now is a time to grow and not contract, is one of the core messages to think about. I'll leave you, Linda, with some of those final thoughts.
So I guess, Alex, what we're saying is flexible systems. So we allow people to get involved and come up with different ideas and suggestions. So you can grow. That, as you said, as we've agreed, like, there's no failure, only feedback. And if what you're doing isn't working, then do something different. Sounds really simple, but we get caught up in doing things the same way and just keep persisting and persisting. There's an art in knowing when to let it go and try something different.
Love it. Love it. And I'm sure all our listeners and watchers will agree. Guys, please feel free to comment. If you've enjoyed today's session and you feel that there's colleagues out there in the industry who would benefit from it, please do share what Linda has mentioned today in those discussions. If you haven't already, like us on Facebook so that you're always getting the information that we're posting, and making sure that you're staying close to us. If you haven't, subscribe to the YouTube channel and like that little bell so that you can get the notifications to know when we're on and what's happening. And make sure that you do that. We're also on SoundCloud, and I know a lot of you are listening to us right now on SoundCloud. So share the information, share the love, give us your feedback. We do love getting it. In terms of some systems, in terms of, hey, what do I do next? Linda has been very kind and set up a report, which is very easy to read. I think it's under 10 minutes of just pure factual information that you can utilize straight away into your business. It's 7 strategies proven to increase revenue. And when Linda talks about proven, she means that this is the stuff that she's been working with all her mentoring clients over the years, whether they're individual pharmacies or multiple pharmacies or the large, big banner groups that she's worked with. These are proven strategies. And if you actually take the time to invest and put these and implement these strategies into your pharmacy, you're going to see major changes. So the report, it's asking you whether you make the costly sales killing mistakes in your pharmacy. It double checks that. It shows you in terms of how to discover the big 7 reasons why people don't buy from your pharmacy. And how you can fix that fast. But she goes into detail about identifying highly profitable business and sales strategies to increase profits by an extra 30%. And that's your money. You get to keep that. You can invest that back into the business, into the team, which is great. Develop a motivated, productive team who will sell gracefully and with integrity. We'll create an extraordinary pharmacy with maximized systems and customer experience tips in there. Tips in terms of how to build a loyal base of customers and how to quickly and easily identify and launch a compelling product and services offering to your community. So that's under 10 minutes of reading that you can actually pick up in that report. And in terms of investing your time and investing your time wisely, that is something that you'll be able to grab. Just click on the link if you haven't done so already, and you'll grab that. Thanks once again for your time. We know how valuable it is, and we trust that you get a lot of great information from these sessions listening to Linda. Next up, we're going to be talking about in our next podcast about Facebook for pharmacies. Linda overheard a conversation at a conference that she was speaking at a little while back, and there were two pharmacists having a pretty good, hearty discussion about this. One was for it, one was against it. So we're going to be looking at this and going into a little bit of detail in this particular area and whether Facebook is for pharmacies, yes or no. Thanks, everybody. Linda, once again, a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Alex. Always great to catch up with you.
Cheers, everybody. Take care. See you next time.
Bye for now.